Here are 5 teams in the NFL who I believe have won the offseason. The Dallas Cowboys have definitely had a very good offseason. After having the worst defense in the league last year, Dallas went in another direction, bringing in Christian Parker to be their new defensive coordinator. He's coming from being the Eagles and Broncos secondary coach. So that's a new scheme, new energy, new standard now. They also traded for Rashawn Gary from Green Bay. He's obviously far from a Michael Parsons, but can still give solid production off the edge. And plus, Parker also coached him in Green Bay his first 2 seasons in 2019 and 2020, so that can help out as far as getting the best out of him. Now in the draft, the Cowboys went in with multiple first-round picks, and I'd say they used those picks wisely. They traded up to land safety Caleb Downs at 11, and then they added another edge rusher in Malachi Lawrence at 23. And as far as free agency goes, they signed Jalen Thompson to a 3-year deal worth up to $36 million, grabbed Kobe Durant and PJ Locke, added linebackers D. Winter via trade from the 49ers, and let's not forget they extended kicker Brandon Aubrey on a 4-year deal. He's been one of the best kickers in football, so it's a no-brainer. And Javonte Williams is also back on a 3-year extension, so you're very good at the running back spot too. And to top things off, the Cowboys franchise tagged wide receiver George Pickens. People sleep on Dallas because the defense has been embarrassing, and many fans for one reason or another hate Dak Prescott, but that defense has now been rebuilt from the ground up. The offense didn't lose a thing either. So as long as Dak and the offense doesn't take a step back, the Cowboys can definitely have a shot at a division title and possibly a deep playoff run. The Cincinnati Bengals are another offseason winner. The Bengals have been one of the most frustrating teams in the NFL to watch because the talent on offense is undeniable. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, at the top 3 offensive core in the entire NFL. They've been one of the highest scoring offenses in the league for quite some time now, and yet it hasn't really mattered because their defense has been terrible. 31st in the league last year, 3 straight seasons where they've been at the bottom of the NFL. But this offseason, the Bengals went and reshaped their entire defense. The biggest move was no doubt trading for Dexter Lawrence from the New York Giants, in which they gave up the 10th overall pick to get him. And yeah, that is expensive, but when you're a team with an elite quarterback and receiver that is constantly being held back by your defense, taking the risk and going all in has to be on the table. And when you're a team that's one side of the ball away from a deep playoff appearance or a Super Bowl, you have to be willing to spend. And for once, I actually believe that Cincinnati is going all in. Lawrence signed a 1-year extension worth $28 million, and he's under contract through 2028. He gives the Bengals a run stopper who also generates quarterback pressure. The middle of the defensive line was one of their biggest weaknesses, but they didn't stop there. They signed Boye Mafe to a 3-year, $60 million deal, grabbed Jonathan Allen, another veteran defensive tackle, on a 2-year deal to pair with Lawrence up front, signed Brian Cook from the Chiefs at safety, got Kyle Duggar for secondary depth, and then to reinforce the D-line even more, they drafted Cassius Howell in the 2nd round to be their new young pass rusher after losing Trey Hendrickson. So to put this all together, you got Dexter Lawrence, Boye Mafe, Jonathan Allen, Brian Cook, Kyle Duggar, Cassius Howell, and you've got a defense that went from a laughingstock to possibly being very, very respectable. I won't say elite yet, but we can't sit here and make jokes about how trash the Bengals defense is anymore. And to be perfectly honest, if this defense is just average, and you've got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on the other side on offense, the Bengals are a team who can potentially go on a deep playoff run. The Giants went 4-13 last year, their 8th time in 9 seasons losing double-digit games. And they finally put an end to the Brian Dable era and brought in John Harbaugh as their new head coach. 18 seasons in Baltimore, 12 playoff appearances, 1 Super Bowl ring. His resume is one of the best, even if some fans question just how good of a coach he really is at this moment. And they gave him a $100 million deal. This isn't just a coaching hire, this is a full-on reset with the Giants, which is why they're also one of my offseason winners. And to go along with even more Ravens influence, they brought over Isaiah Likely at tight end to be Jackson Dart's new security blanket in the passing game. They signed fullback Patrick Ricard, punter Jordan Stout, safety Ardarius Washington, and at receiver they added Darnell Mooney to stretch the field. They brought in Tremaine Edmonds to upgrade the linebacker room, Greg Newsom to upgrade the cornerback position, and Jason Sanders as their new kicker. And of course, as great as he was, trading Dexter Lawrence to the Bengals for the 10th pick is a good move for them, especially when Lawrence already wanted out. And getting a 10th pick in return is a great deal. They used their 1st round picks on Arvell Reese and Francis Moaga, both amazing picks to start. And on defense, they still have Brian Burns and Abdul Carter at edge rusher. They still have Malik Neighbors coming back from an ACL tear as their number 1 receiver. They still have Cam Scatterbo and Tyrone Tracy in the backfield at running back. On paper, this Giants team is loaded with young talent, and now they have a good head coach to develop it. The NFC East is very interesting, so let's see how it all works out. The Jets are another team who have been the laughingstock of the NFL for quite some time, but this offseason, they've made a lot of interesting and beneficial decisions for their future. In the draft, David Bailey at 2 is a great pick as a franchise cornerstone edge rusher. Then they followed it up with Kenyon Sadiq at tight end at 16 and Omar Cooper as a new receiver at 30. And getting corner D'Angelo Ponce in the second round is another great pick for the future, especially after trading Sauce Gardner midseason. They resolved the Breece Hall problem, signing him to a 3-year, $45 million extension too. At the offensive line, adding Dylan Parham on a 2-year deal up to $20 million can give average play up front. They brought in Joseph Osai on a 3-year, $36 million deal to rush the passer. Then they grabbed Kingsley Enagbari for solid depth too. In the interior, David Onyemata is on a 1-year deal, and he brings veteran experience to the D-line. And at quarterback, yes, they traded for Geno Smith from Las Vegas. And look, I know people are going to clown on that. Geno Smith is not a franchise answer. He wasn't in the first stint, and he certainly won't be the second time around. But here's what you got to understand. The Jets right now are in a transitional phase. They got the number 2 pick in a 1 quarterback draft year. Geno is pretty much a placeholder while they figure out the long game at quarterback. And honestly, he's been a reliable starter. He can still manage a game, but they also got Cade Klubnik, so maybe he also shows a little bit of something this year too. The bigger picture for the Jets is that they finally look like a team with a little bit of structure. Head coach Aaron Glenn enters year 2. The roster has some talent. Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson gives them an identity on offense. Are the Jets a Super Bowl team? Obviously no. But are they a team that maybe fights for a wild card if all things go right? I can kind of see it. And after what Jets fans have been through, that's definitely progress right now. And finally, the Las Vegas Raiders are definitely off-season winners. The Raiders have been one of the most tortured fan bases in the NFL for years. But this offseason, Las Vegas did a lot of things that could push them in the right direction. Fernando Mendoza, first overall, is at the very top. Heisman Trophy winner, national champion. He's the face of their franchise now. And to help against throwing Mendoza to the fire immediately, they went out and also signed Kirk Cousins as a bridge quarterback. Cousins, I believe, should be an okay vet to hold it down while Mendoza develops, although I do see both quarterbacks starting games this upcoming season. The quarterback situation isn't the whole story though. They signed Tyler Lindenbaum, one of the best centers in the NFL, to the richest deal for a center in NFL history. 3 years, $81 million. And when you're drafting a franchise quarterback, you have to build the line in front of him first. That's exactly what the Raiders did. On defense, they added Kwity Paye on a 3-year, $48 million deal. They brought in linebackers Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker to shore up the middle. They added Jalen Naylor as a receiver weapon. And of course, they already have Brock Bowers at tight end and Ashton Genty at running back from last year's draft too. The Raiders did a lot of good things to round out the roster so that Fernando Mendoza isn't just out there by himself. And look, did the Max Crosby trade work out? No. The Ravens backed out and Crosby is still on the roster. But honestly, having Max Crosby on the defense with the added pieces could work out in favor of Las Vegas now too. So overall, this is a new era for the Raiders, and Fernando Mendoza can possibly be the guy that gives Raiders fans something to believe in. Comment who you think are the biggest winners of the NFL offseason and subscribe for more NFL content like this.